Hello and welcome to Todd Talk, where insight meets inspiration. I'm your host, Todd Hiller, and I'm an author, speaker, and longtime community leader, here to guide you on a journey towards fulfillment and balance. In every episode, we'll explore ways to fill life's emptiness, helping you uncover practical tools to create harmony, purpose, and happiness. Whether it's thriving in your career, nurturing personal growth, or simply finding joy in the everyday, Todd Talk is your space for real conversations and actionable advice. So let's thrive together, personally, professionally, and beyond. This is Todd Talk, and I'm thrilled to have you here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Todd Talk. Happy to have you back here with me. In today's episode, we're going to talk about something that I have found to be very important and something that I think a lot of people struggle with. We're going to dive into the power of momentum, how starting is often the hardest part, but once you get going, it's so much easier to keep moving forward. And I want to use a powerful but pretty simple analogy to talk about momentum. And the analogy is of a wood stove. Imagine you're in a cabin on a cold night, you've got a wood stove, but right now it's cold, it's ice cold. Starting a fire from scratch takes a lot of effort. You need newspaper, kindling, some bigger logs to build it up. You strike a match, and first you have to baby the fire. You have to blow on it, you add little sticks here and there, make sure it doesn't go out, make sure it stays alive and breathing and well. And then once you've got it going, then you can kind of sit back and just add stuff to it. But once you've got it going, once you've got it burning, once you have the fire going well, keeping the fire going is a lot easier. All you have to do is add more wood, and the heat will catch that wood on fire, and you're off and running. You don't have to go through the effort of grabbing kindling wood and newspaper and all these little things and trying to baby the fire and start from scratch and say, oh my God, I hope it gets warm in here before I freeze to death. So let's apply that to your personal growth, your business, your fitness goals, or anything you're working towards. Starting is always the hardest part. It takes the most energy, takes the most motivation, and sometimes it takes the most courage because we're all scared to start. We worry that there's going to be no perfect time for us to start, right? We always wait for that perfect moment, and then we realize it's never going to come. But once you begin and the momentum takes over, keeping your momentum or keeping your progress moving forward or keeping that fire burning and staying consistent becomes a much smoother process. And if it's not smooth at first right away, at least it becomes a little bit easier. So why do we need to just start? Well, like I said, we all wait for that perfect time. Oh, I'll start a business when the time is right. I'll start a business when the kids are older. I'll buy a new car once I have a chance to save some money. I'll start delving into that hobby I've always wanted to do once I have more free time because my big work project is done. And the truth is that we never actually get to it. I'll start eating healthier next Monday. I'll launch my business when I have more time. Oh, I'm going to write my book when the inspiration strikes and I don't have to worry about coaching my kids' soccer team anymore. We can always find a reason to not start. So just get out of your own way and do it. There is no perfect time. Life will always be busy. Conditions will never be ideal. And if you wait and wait and wait, you're going to stay stuck. So instead, just take the leap. Even if it's a tiny step, just start today. You don't have to have it perfectly right and have this big grandiose step to take right away. It can be a super small step to just start. And I want you to look at it this way. If you had started working on your goal 6 months ago, think of how far you would be today. And that's the forward thinking you kind of have to look at. So just start today because eventually, pretty soon, 6 more months are going to go by and you're going to look back and say, oh, I wish I had started. But think about that. If you had started 6 months ago, think how far you would be right now and use that to help you get motivated to start in the moment. The only difference between the person who made progress and the person who is still stuck is that one of them started and the other one didn't. Okay, and so now you're probably saying, okay, Todd, now what? So I've started. Today's Monday. It's day one. I've started. Here we go. How do I keep the momentum going? How do I keep feeding the fire and keep things going strong? Once you've started, you need to keep feeding the fire. Keep the momentum up. And this doesn't mean you have to make massive leaps every single day. As a matter of fact, the small consistent wins are much more important than the occasional giant bursts of progress because those big bursts aren't going to happen very often. You're going to get to a point where you hammer on a lot of progress in one single day, and that's great, but that won't be normal. That won't be the regular. That won't be the norm. You're going to have to stick to those small, consistent wins. So don't worry about if you think, oh, this isn't big enough progress or this isn't a big enough leap. That's okay. There's no such thing. If you want to write a book, say, I want to write 200 words a day. instead of saying, I'm going to finish this entire chapter when I sit down. And I struggled with this when I wrote my first book too. I would sit down and say, okay, I got to write 3 chapters today because I want to get this thing finished and not give up on it. But 3 chapters is a lot of writing and a lot of words. And in the grand scheme of me working full time, having 2 kids and everything else I had on my plate at the time, it wasn't impossible and it wasn't inconceivable, but it was pretty improbable that I was going to have a chance to write 3 entire chapters in one day amongst the other busy things going on in my life. So set a smaller goal, a small step, 200 words a day if you're writing a book. If you want to get in shape, work out for 10 minutes every day. You don't have to say, well, I'm going to get in shape, so today I'm going to go to the gym for 3 hours, and I will go to the gym 3 hours, 3 days a week for the next 5 years. I mean, think of how hard that is to sustain. Now, are there people who go to the gym that often and for that long? Yes, there certainly are. But if you're just starting out, you don't have to say that it's going to be this big, giant leap into a completely different lifestyle. You can start small. Because if you start working out 10 minutes a day, and you stick to that and you stay consistent, guess what? That 10 minutes every single day will very quickly and very soon outdo the going to the gym for an hour once a month because you finally found the time on some random Saturday or Sunday. So stick to those small, consistent wins. And we can apply this to lots of things. The gym, the book, if you're building a business, make 1 phone call. Or send 1 email every day instead of waiting for that quote-unquote right moment to just dive in and say, okay, today's the day I'm going to really get my business going. Because pretty soon, 1 phone call and 1 email over the course of a week turns into 7 phone calls or 7 emails or 5 if it's a normal work day. And pretty soon, after 2 weeks go by, you're 10 or 12 phone calls and emails down the road of starting and launching your business instead of saying, well, at the end of this month, I'll have a free Friday and then I'm going to get a lot of stuff done. And in that free Friday, maybe you send 3 emails as opposed to the 12 or 15 you would have sent if you just started with a few a day, right? And that can pertain to anything. Small steps, small consistent wins matter, and they will keep building up. You know how I know? Because I've seen it work. I've seen it work for my friends. I've seen it work for myself. I've been proud of my friends for the progress they've made. And guess what? They weren't overnight successes. Some of them, it took 5, 10, 15 years to get where they are in business. Some of them, it went quicker, but it was still a series of small, consistent habits and things they did every single day to build themselves up and get to where they are. So these small actions, these little things that build momentum are just like adding a single log to the fire once it's burning to keep the fire going. Once you have that fire going, once you have your business started, once you have the book in progress and you've started it all together and you're 2 chapters in, just keep going. Okay, once you've done 10 10-minute workouts, that's a lot of time spent working on yourself and working on your physical well-being and your health as opposed to still struggling to find 1 single day to go to the gym for an hour. And I think from this comes one of the biggest misconceptions, I think, about success is that it comes from these big dramatic leaps forward. All we see on social media are the overnight success stories. Nobody posts about the little wins. Or if they do, typically none of us have the attention span these days to follow someone's story from start to finish. But if you look back at people, it's not this giant, grandiose, overnight, snap your fingers, boom, I'm a millionaire, or my business has quadrupled. I mean, yes, it does happen, but that's not the norm. That's not the consistency that most people use to build up their business or build up their personal goals. So what's the reality? The reality is that success is built on small, consistent wins. And if you stick to these and keep your commitment to your commitments, you can build really great and beautiful things. Whether it's personal goals about your health or your well-being or being in shape, or if it's a business goal or a personal habit that you want to change, you can do it. Small, consistent wins. And some people will say, yeah, but I want to take those big leaps. I want to do those big things. I want to spend all day down the rabbit hole of starting my business. Okay, that's fine. You can certainly do that, okay? But you can't do it every single day. So take that great leap and take that 1 full day and use that progress. And then the next day, you can go back to doing the small wins. If you're building a fire to keep yourself warm, you don't burn the whole tree at the same time, okay? Because you'd have this big giant flare up. It'd be lots of heat. It'd be great. And then all of a sudden, when it started to die down, you'd be like, well, I got nothing else to add to it. Now the fire's going to go out and I'm going to get cold, all right? And part of this whole big idea, big goal thing is it's really hard to get to. So think back to your life. Have you ever set a big goal and, in the beginning, you're super motivated and you're ready and you're like, yes, the weather's nice. I got the windows open, the music cranking. I'm in the right mindset. I got my flow is working. Here we go. I'm going to crush my goal. But then after a couple days or after a couple weeks, the motivation fades, your energy fades, and then you sit there and you look and you say, well, that's great. I had this big unsustainable effort that I tried to put all my effort into, and I did that. I started strong. I had 4 days where I was pushing through and hammering out progress, and then all of a sudden now your energy fades and you cannot keep up the momentum. So it's not the big unsustainable efforts that are the key to momentum. It's the small wins and the consistency that matters so much. Small wins, they require less energy, and therefore they're easier to sustain. Small wins require less energy, so they're easier to sustain. And those small wins also do lots of other great things. They build confidence. They give you the energy to keep going because you've said, hey, I can feel confident in my ability to do this because I have this little win that I achieved yesterday, and then I've done this 3 days in a row, and we're going to keep the momentum going. And it also helps you create a habit, and healthy habits are one of the biggest ways we can push change forward in our lives, no matter what it's about, whether it's personal change or, change in your business, change in your job, your lifestyle, whatever it is. Small, consistent habits that you can create and repeat over and over will take you so far. So don't look for that perfect time. Don't wait and say, oh, what can I do right now that will make everything great and launch me into overnight success? Instead, think to yourself, what are some small things I can do on a consistent basis to push my progress forward? And make a list, and I bet you pretty soon you'll have a really good list, and once you start them, you'll have some really good progress and start feeling really good about the things you can keep doing to walk towards your goal. And momentum comes from repetition, not necessarily intensity. Is it great to be intense about your goal? Yes. Is it great to hit something hard and hit the ground running? Absolutely. But when we talked about, getting yourself in shape, the way you grow your momentum and the way you grow your steps and you grow your progress is by little things. The first day you do 10 push-ups, or you walk for 5 minutes, or you say, hey, I'm going to have a bottle of water instead of a bottle of soda at lunch, and all of a sudden you feel a little bit better. You've made those little wins. So the next day you do 10 more push-ups, and after a week you can do 20 push-ups, and after 2 weeks you can do 35 push-ups, and so on and so forth. But you don't have to all of a sudden set out to do 100 push-ups all at once as fast as you can with that crazy intensity. You need to start small and build on your progress. And it's okay to do that. I think a lot of us, and social media is a big problem with this, we see success stories overnight. We see the glam and the glitz and the amazing things because, let's face it, nobody puts their losses on social media. Nobody puts their worst days. Nobody puts how many times they had to try and fail before they actually got somewhere. There's a song that from years ago called I Want to Thank Everyone That Ever Told Me No. And it's about how the frustration of being told no has pushed that person forward and to keep on striving, because every no he got was one more that he said, okay, I got that out of the way. Now we're almost to the yes. And I heard also this great thing a couple weeks ago in an interview. Someone said, if I told you you had to be told no 25 times before someone would tell you yes for your business, or if I told you you had to work out for 25 days before you could hit your milestone of having a personal best lift or a personal best time running, if I told you you had to have 25 no's before someone said, yes, I will sign this book deal for you, how eager would you be to get started on getting your first no? Right? Think of that. If somebody said, hey, you have to get through 25 rejections first to get to that success, you would run to start getting rejected. You would start trying right away. So that's that just start mentality. Don't worry about it being perfect. Hey, listen, I'm going to get out there and start doing things because I'm okay if this is terrible, because I know that I got to get 25 rejections first to win. And that's such a cool idea. Is it always 25? No, it's just an analogy. But, that's the mentality you have to get yourself into. Just start and get that progress and that momentum started and let it build up and end up like a runaway freight train before you know it, and you'll be moving forward and with unstoppable speed and consistency. And like I said before, this pertains to so many things. Getting yourself in shape, writing a book, starting a business, saving money. People say, well, one day, after I get paid, I'm going to take $500 and put it in a savings account and leave it there and keep doing that every month. And then guess what? The end of the month rolls around and something needs to be fixed, or, the car needs service, or, something went wrong. You broke a piece of furniture. Life happens, and we have to kind of deal with that as it comes. But if instead you say, hey, I'm going to set aside $5 a day. Every day I'm going to take $5 and just move it to this account, or I'm going to take $5 out of my wallet every day and stuff it in a jar. At the end of a month, when you had usually been saying, oh man, well, I didn't save anything this month. I was going to put a whole bunch in there, but I didn't do it. Then think of how far you will get if you do little things every day. And speaking about money, a common term we hear with money is compound interest, right? Well, it doesn't just apply to money. The compound effect or the compounding effect is one way we can look at why small wins lead to such big results. There's this powerful concept, right, called the compound effect, which means that small, consistent actions, they multiply over time. Just like investing a little money on a regular basis leads to wealth, small habits and small consistencies lead to big life changes. If you start with 10 push-ups a day and you do it for 3 weeks, you won't only be able to do 10 push-ups by the time you're 3 weeks in. That's how progress happens. That's how compounding progress happens. It's like the snowball effect, is old and cliche as it sounds, but if you roll a snowball down a hill, first, what is it at first, right? It's tiny. And it takes some effort to get it moving. You got to kind of pack it around and make sure it's still together, and you start rolling it a little bit. But as it rolls and it gets bigger, okay, and if it's going downhill, it'll gain a little speed, right? Eventually, it's unstoppable. It's huge. It'll smash right through what's ever at the bottom. So the snowball effect can work the same way with progress. So when you start these small daily habits and you turn them into something very significant over time, this will feel incredible, okay? But the key to this, and this is the harder part, but I promise it's possible. The hard part about this is you have to make those small wins a non-negotiable, right? You say, well, I have to do these things. But so how do we do these? So you say, well, Todd, I can't do these all the time. These are big things I want to do and changes I want to make. But so lower the barrier, so to speak, for entry. Make the goals easy at first. Make them simple. You don't have to make them hard right away to say, I'll only grow if I make something super hard and then achieve it and then I can be proud of myself. Make it easy. If your goal is to read more, read 1 page a day before you go to bed, okay? If you end up at the end of 3 weeks and you're still reading 1 page a night, that's okay. If you end up at the end of 3 weeks and you're reading 2 or 3 chapters a night because you're really in the habit of reading, that's amazing. And track your wins. This is a really big way to make sure you are sticking to your progress and sticking to your habits and sticking to your momentum and keeping those little wins going is celebrate them, track them. Seeing yourself progress and seeing progress builds motivation. Even if it's a little checklist or a journal you keep to remind you that you're moving forward, that's a great thing. I struggled for a long time when I was writing my novel to find the momentum to keep writing because I was like, well, I can write a little bit every day and it's going away and it's going fine and I'm plugging along, but I had no way to track my wins and say, well, yes, I can say, yeah, I wrote 500 words today, yippee-rah, great. But I had no way to know, well, was it worth writing? So I started feeding pages of it. I sent my brother a couple pages, and I sent my mom a couple pages. And, I'd send them to friends and family. And then when they would read them and say, oh, wow, we love this. This is so good. Can you please send me more? That was the way I tracked my wins. I was like, wow, what I wrote was good. They liked it. It resonated with them. They think it's well written and a good story. So let's go. That's your win. It gives you excitement and momentum and builds you up to keep going. And that's celebrating those small victories. I didn't send them the entire book. I sent them 10, 15 pages at a time. Or sometimes I sent them 5 pages at a time. So you can celebrate the small victories and the small wins. They still matter. They matter a lot because that's how you track your progress and track your wins and keep yourself happy and excited to do more and find yourself more ways to win. And the other thing is to stay accountable, right? And that's one of the things I did with sharing pages without even knowing it was I was keeping myself accountable because as I would send them pages, they would then say, hey, those were great. Send me 5 more or send me 10 more. And I was like, oh, okay, better stay on myself to keep writing because, they want more pages because I want that positive feedback. So I'm going to use that motivation of getting the positive feedback to write some more pages and stay accountable to get them to them because they want them. They're going to ask for them if I don't. And that was a really nice cycle and loop. And that's how I got to the end of my book. And it was a great thing, a great journey. And when it comes to setting your goals, I want you to remember also that life happens. And when life happens, I want you to remember this phrase, adjust, but don't quit. Okay? Adjust what you're doing. Some days aren't going to go as planned. That's okay. Don't quit altogether. Don't say, oh, this isn't for me. Don't say, oh, I'll never get there because this is going to set me back 2 or 3 days, or I won't have time to work on this one thing for an entire week because of something. So don't quit. Just adjust your effort, but keep showing up. And if you miss a day, don't miss a second one. If you miss one day of doing something, don't miss a second one. Sometimes we don't feel good. We get sick. We get, listen, things pop up. I'm a busy person with 2 kids and a lot of commitments in my town and my community. I get it. Sometimes things happen. But if you miss one day for whatever reason, don't miss a second. Okay, make the effort. And if the second day, if you have to adjust what the effort looks like, that's perfectly okay too. The consistency of showing up for yourself is what matters. Okay, that's what's going to get you down the road to where you want to be. So use those small wins, just like logs in the fire. You know, if you add one at a time, that's okay. You don't have to add 15 logs just to keep the fire going. You can add one. And when you add one log to the fire, it will keep itself going, and you can keep working forward and keep keeping yourself warm. So add one thing, add one little victory, add one little small consistent habit, and if you keep doing that, your progress and your momentum will be so much easier to sustain. And the reason we do this is because we don't want to start from scratch, right? Here's the rub. What is the downfall and the pitfall of letting momentum die? Well, if you let the fire go out, and if you ignore it for too long and you don't add anything to it, the coals cool down, and suddenly you're right back to square one. You need the matches, the newspaper, the kindling wood, and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you don't have any more matches, or you don't have any newspaper, or you don't have any more kindling wood, you don't have those small things to start with, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, okay? So keep yourself moving forward. This is why a lot of people struggle, too, with stopping and starting on their goals, because every time they lose that momentum, they have to fight twice as hard to get it going again. And then they say, oh, God, this is so hard, and so I'm not doing this. I give up. Enough's enough. It's so much easier to maintain progress and maintain momentum than it is to restart your progress all over again. And that's the place we get to if we let it die for too long, or let it go out, or we ignore it for too long. So stay with it. Right? So if you find yourself slowing down, don't let the fire die completely. You can adjust to what you're doing. Even a little action is better than none. Even throwing a handful of little sticks on your fire is better than just ignoring it and letting go out. Okay, so even showing up for yourself in a small way with small wins every single day, that is better than ignoring them and saying, well, this got too hard. I missed one day. What's a second? Well, and I missed a second day. Well, the heck with it. I can miss another day. And all of a sudden now it's been 3 weeks. You haven't gone back to that thing. You haven't done any push-ups. You haven't written any pages of your book. You haven't saved any money. And now you feel, oh, I'm not starting all over again. This was impossible. See, this is why I can't do things like this. Okay, so show up for yourself. Even if it's just a little thing, show up for yourself every single day that you can, okay? Because your goals matter. Your aim matter. Your dreams matter. Your success matters. The things you want out of life matter. I spent a lot of time when I was younger not steering my ship where I wanted it to go. I just kind of drifted along and dealt with whatever showed up wherever my boat ended up, my boat of life. And it took me a really long time to realize that I'm the one in charge of steering it, and not only can I steer it where I want to go, but I should steer it where I want to go. Because if you don't, if you stay drifting and walking and wandering around wherever your boat drifts and ends up, yes, you can deal with the things that come along. Yes, you might have some great adventures along the way and some good memories, but you're not pointing it towards where you want to get to at the end of your trip and the end of your journey. And that's so important. And the small, consistent habits that you use to show up for yourself is how you keep yourself headed in that right direction. Okay? Your dreams matter. Your goals matter. So just keep going. Momentum is your friend, so don't waste it. All right? 2 simple words. Just start. And keep pushing forward, even if it's in small steps. And whatever you do, don't let that fire go out. Don't stop showing up for yourself. Because once you're in motion, staying in motion is a lot easier to do than starting all over. Thank you all for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone that you think might not have heard my podcast. And don't forget to like and subscribe and follow along. And if you have someone in your life that you think needs a little momentum or a little help getting started, maybe you can send this episode to them and have them get happily on their way. As always, thank you so much for being here and listening. I appreciate you guys very, very much. Thanks for tuning in to Todd Talk. If you've liked what you've heard, please go ahead and subscribe and follow along so you don't miss any updates or new episodes. Thanks very much and enjoy the rest of your day.